Hello and welcome to the next section of my course, where we'll discuss how to use and build a perfect histogram. In this video, we will talk about what is histogram and how to build it. Let's start and let's build a histogram. So let's imagine that we are the managers of a small fast food restaurants, and what we're trying to do, we're trying to visualize the hourly pay of our workers, and this is the data set of hourly pay of 40 workers that we collected. Just looking at this table and at this number, it's actually hard to see the structure and the pattern of our hourly pays. Of course, we can see that the minimum hourly pay is $5 per hour and the maximum hourly pay is $34 per hour. But where the typical experience lies, it lies somewhere between $5 and $34 per hour. That's obvious, but is it close to 34? Is it close to 5? Or is it somewhere in the middle? It's hard to tell. So let's see what we can do to visualize it. And the approach is very simple. What we should do here, we should break all of our numbers into groups or bins or buckets. So we see that minimum hourly pay is $5 per hour and maximum hourly pay is $34 per hour. So just out of sense of common sense, we should break all of our salary pays or all our hourly pays into buckets of 5, starting from $5 and ending all the way to $35. And of course, the maximum hourly pay of $34 will go to the last bucket. And let's assign all our salaries into the buckets that we've just created. So the first bucket would be for all the hourly pays between $5 and $9 US. And let's see how many hourly pays are there. There are exactly 2 hourly pays, 2 observations that fall into this bucket. Then the next bucket is for all the hourly pays between $10 and $14 per hour. There are 1, 2, and exactly 3 observations, 3 hourly pays in our dataset that fall into this bucket. And then all the subsequent observations will follow the same pattern. So the next bucket of $15 to $19 US per hour, including $15 and $19, it has 8 salaries and 8 observations. Then its next bucket will have 15 observations, next bucket will have 10 observations, and the last bucket will have 2 observations. And the next step is actually very straightforward. Then we should build a histogram, we should build a chart. What we are building with this data is a very straightforward bar chart that we've covered in depth previously. So the bar chart has bins as categories and number of observations as a bar height. So the features of a histogram are as follows. Well, first is histogram shows a single numeric variable. This is crucial, this is important because all of the previous chart types that we covered show 2 or multiple or numeric and categorical variables. So the histogram shows only 1 numerical variable. So that's important. Then this variable is broken into several groups, buckets or bins. Both terms are used interchangeably in the literature. And then another feature of histogram, that histogram actually works with as many data points as possible. And here there is virtually no limit. There are histograms with thousands or even 100,000 of data points all grouped into bins as needed. The main feature of a histogram is that histogram shows patterns and structure in our numerical data. And what are the typical patterns that a real-life dataset can show us on the histogram? Well, there are several of them. The first and very common is the symmetrical pattern, and this is the pattern that we already see when we were building our fictitious Acme Foods salary dataset. And it looks like this. This is familiar chart that we've just built, and the shape of it looks like a bell-shaped curve, and if you know statistics, this is the shape of a normal distribution. Another pattern that we can see is the skewed pattern, either to the leftmost or rightmost values of our data set, and an example would be a histogram that looks something like this. So here we see the most of our workers earn somewhere between $30 and $34 per hour, and all the lesser buckets have fewer and fewer workers in this bucket. And yes, so this is how the skewed pattern may look like. Then the next pattern, very typical pattern in the real life histograms, is the uniformly distributed pattern, and this is when there is no maximum in our bucket. All the buckets are nearly even in their size, which means that there is no group of salaries in our case that has dominance in relation to other salary groups. And in this case, the shape would be close or nearly close to a straight line. And then the last pattern often can see is what is called the multimodal pattern, and this could be an example of this multimodal pattern when we see two streams, two prominent maximums that we see in our dataset. So the first maximum is the smallest bucket from $5 to $9 per hour, and the next maximum of 10 numbers of workers are getting the salary between $25 and $29 per hour. So in this case, we see not one, but two maximums and two modes in our dataset, which means that there are two bumps in our distribution. And this is it for today.